All right, we are back out in the shop. Zach Strock is back over here at the Talbot Industries headquarters. We got finished. It's probably been 2 months, but we got the engine all broken in as far as the cam and stuff like that. It's back over here to get the compound kit piping all finalized and get some gauges and some other miscellaneous stuff wrapped up. So let's go take a look to see what I got for parts. Got a bunch of parts that came in for this. We'll take a look at those and then we'll jump back over here and I'll try to go through my plan of attack and getting this compound kit all set up and making it look sweet. All right, bunch of parts came in. We got V-band for everything that we're gonna get set up. So the original kit that he bought for the compounds came with, obviously, the V-band coming off of the big turbo, feeding into the small turbo had a boot connection. We're gonna get rid of that boot connection for 2 reasons. 1, we don't like the way it looks, and 2, we need to modify some locations anyways, and it may not kind of work. So for that, got a 4-inch V-band clamp. This is a washer that I machined down on the lathe to make as an adapter to go from a 3-inch pipe to a 4-inch V-band. We got a bunch of 3-inch stuff for the charge pipe, some 1 3/4 stuff for the wastegate. We're going to be doing 2 different wastegate setups on this. I'm going to get both of them fabbed up right now so that we'll be ready to go, but we're going to have one that's going to be wastegate to atmosphere and then a recirculation wastegate that we can then put in. So we'll be able to break in the truck on the dyno is the plan with a wastegate to atmosphere, and then once that is done, we can try to throw a hot tune in it, for lack of a better term, and tune it with a recirculating wastegate. So got all this stuff, nice stainless stuff, all come from Ace Race Parts. Really easy, nice website that I found to work with. Also got a bunch of new tools for this project, which I'm really happy about. I got these purge plugs from Tycon. Those are really good for back purging all the pipes. So I got 3 different sizes there that'll work with the piping that we have set up over here. I got a Vice pipe kit from Austin Innovations. Really excited about that. That's going to make holding the pipe, being able to weld it, really easy. Plus, I picked up a rotary positioner, which I'm super excited about. I've always wanted one, and this is the perfect project to get one of those dialed in and used on. Wish I had all this stuff last year when we were doing the full piping kit, but not to say that we're not going to change some things up down the road. We'll be doing some of that. So back over here at the truck, there's a number of things that need to get done. The charge pipe from the big turbo to the small turbo needs to get done. The hot side intercooler pipe from the small turbo to the intercooler needs to get set up. We need to finalize the intermediate hot pipe setup, plumb the wastegate, and a down pipe. The plan of action that I think I'm going to work on is I'm going to get the charge pipe from the turbo to the intercooler done first, and that's going to clock the turbo into position. And that way, when I weld the V-band onto this compressor housing, if there's any possibility of it being not perfectly square, I don't have to worry about it when I rotate it and line up this pipe and all that, because it'll all be set up in place. So we're going to do charge pipe. We're going to get this pipe set up here first. That's going to finalize the location of the big turbo. From there, we're able to adjust the hot pipe if needed. And then it will be down pipe and wastegate piping after that in really no particular order. But that's the plan of action. So let's go take a look at what my vision is for this charge pipe. The plan for over here, we obviously have the pipe from last year, which part of this will be able to get used. And we had a boot on both ends and the elbow coming off. There's not a lot of room now in here. We can't reuse the existing elbow that we had from last year because that's a true 90-degree elbow, and it pretty much points the pipe right towards the alternator, which is less than ideal. So fortunately, I found this elbow, which is a 2nd-gen elbow, which is not a true 90 last year, that we already cut the end off of. So we're gonna throw this in my new sandblast cabinet, get this all cleaned up, and the plan is this will be able to go onto the turbo like that. Sorry, this braided line is in the way of it going on. And then a 3-inch V-band will get welded to that connection, and then V-band to pipe directly from there. Long term, we'll see if there's any issues about having this be a rigid connection. There is a hose on the other side to provide some movement. If the V-band is an issue, then we'll do one of those like vibrant boost clamps that's more like a collar that allows some movement in there. But for right now, this is what we're going to do to give this a shot. So like I said, we're going to get this pipe done first. My plan is to get the entire turbo kit kind of tacked together, and then I'll go through after and fully weld everything out, just in case if I run into any issues, it's not too late. So let's get this cleaned up. Got that V-band tacked on to the band. I ended up just grinding down the paint on that, and I'll get it all blasted up later. Turbo's loose and clocked. That looks like it's about going to be the right position. Had the old charge pipe in place, the old brace in place, because this half is still going to be good. I'm going to cut the pipe off at this weld and then probably reclock this elbow to point up, and I think probably another 45 going that way after it's clocked. We'll probably be able to get it going in the spot that it needs to go. I don't want to mess around with this. I think that this down low is going to be good. I don't want to point this up and try to go above the AC lines. So we're just going to keep that kind of original and then piece it together as we go. So I have 3-inch V-band clamps that are meant to be used with 3-inch OD tubing. We're using 3.5-inch OD tubing, so that doesn't give a very good fit. The plan is to take the bead roller, and instead of having the bead be on the outside of the pipe, put it on the inside of the pipe, and that'll shrink the ID down so that it should hopefully fit around the OD of this flange. Got the reverse bead roll set, and then I cut the half off, so it's just a small little lip, a little bit of massage work with an adjustable, and it's a pretty snug fit in there. I think that that's going to work pretty good. It'll allow me to get this nice and centered and still leave some room for the V-band clamp, along with getting a weld bead on there. A couple hours later, we got one pipe done. Obviously, got to still weld it out fully, but I was able to retain the original elbow that I have my logo welded onto, along with the boost braces here. I didn't have to move any of that. I got that all set up with not too many pieces, which is nice. The pipe is shrunk down on the end to fit the V-band, 3-inch V-band there, turbo there, and close is not touching. But I had to get that as far over that way to try to get as much room as possible between the hot pipe and the V-band. Right now, there's not a lot of room, and this turbo does need to go up a little bit. So, but now that this is in, I'm definitely happy with that. I can lock in the compressor housing rotation. I know it's going to be there. And now I can work on this intermediate pipe, which hopefully will be a little less involved than this piece. And the only thing that may be this complicated is going to be the down pipe. That's what I'm hoping. I think I mentioned before when we were mocking up the turbos on the truck that we were going to have issues with this pipe. But just to go over it again, you can see how far off center that is. And it's just, if you rotate it up, it doesn't really help. So pretty much what I'm going to do is use this piece to locate the big turbo and then just fix everything else around that. Because one, Zach really wants to keep this piece as complete because it's got the Evil Fab logo on it, so I can appreciate that. So we're just going to use that to kind of drive the rest of the turbo placement, and then ultimately, you know, be able to support it and the downpipe and all that. But this is kind of the upfront piece. The plan I got over here, 4-inch V-band. The 4-inch V-band fits pretty much perfect on top of this turbo here, which is cool. That'll lock in there, and then to adapt the 3-inch pipe to a 4-inch opening, this is I believe it's a 2-inch washer that I got off McMaster-Carr. It's a stainless washer. The 4-inch outer diameter fits perfectly in the original V-band, and then I just bored out the inner on the lathe so that this will be able to fit in place just like that once I fit it. And then that'll locate it and give a nice clean look and a transition from a 3-inch pipe to a 4-inch V-band. They do make transition V-bands and transition pipe flanges, but with the room that we had here, it just wasn't going to be feasible. So this is what I came up with, and I honestly think that this is going to work out really, really good. Well, I got so excited that I jumped right into this, and I got the V-band tacked up using the weld positioner and completely forgot to get any video of it. I was just coming out in the garage is just trying to bang out some work over here. But we're gonna get this set up. We're gonna clamp this V-band to it. That helps kind of minimize any distortion, and then we're gonna get this thing welded out. Super pleased on how the turbo compressor housing came out. So that's all fully welded up. I'm getting all this stuff fully welded because pretty much it's going to be holding the weight of the big turbo as I get everything else mocked up. So the next step in that is I'm going to get this adapter ring that I made. This is that washer I was talking about. 2-inch washer off McMaster-Carr, 4-inch OD, fit perfect into the V-band, bored out the inside to fit the 3-inch OD pipe. Just gonna get this welded up, and then I can fit it onto the pipe and get that into position, and that's just one less weld that I have to do. Not gonna be putting a lot of heat into this, so I'm not gonna worry about the flange warping or back purge or anything like that. Still getting the hang of welding with the rotary. I still have the speed set up a little bit too quick. I do think that I'm gonna have to get another motor for this to slow it down a little bit more. I already dropped it down once. I think I'm gonna drop it down again because it's at the bottom and it's already pretty quick, especially doing the larger stuff, at least until I get more of a hang on it. So I was gonna use filler. That wasn't working out. Just fuse this together. There's plenty of meat there, and I'm not too worried about it, but overall came out pretty nice. I just pulsed it, and it worked out pretty good. This is the point that gets fun when you're by yourself. Got the big turbo out, and now it's time to get this pipe set up in place. Rotation-wise, doesn't matter because it'll rotate on the V-band, but there is some angle here. I think ultimately we want these to be perpendicular, so 90 degrees to each other, and then the only difference is how far in and out this pipe goes. I kind of want to get it sit in as much as I can there. That'll get the turbo back further, which leaves more room up here for the intake, but also cuts down on the amount of room that we have for the downpipe, which is already going to be kind of close. So I may just put it somewhere in the middle. It's going to be a little bit of trial and error. I'm thinking of a way I can try to get the turbo hung up on something. I don't have room for a engine hoist in here, but that way I could really mock it up and see what everything's going to look like. Taking a look around everything, and since the entire intercooler project was based around the fact of Zach wanting to be able to keep the AC, it only makes sense that we work around this. So with the pipe in position there, which is about 1/2 inch stuck out past pretty much as far in as it can go, the compressor housing and the V-band land just in front of this. If we pushed it any more back, it would be in the way of this. That's a good enough reason for me to make the pipe there. So I think we're gonna get this welded up, and that'll create a nice solid connection. And then unfortunately it's gonna be chopping up that hot pipe there to make everything work. All right, I got this intermediate pipe tacked up together enough to where it can hang the big turbo off of it. Played around with some positioning, and ultimately I think that we're gonna raise the turbo up as high as it can go, which is pretty much there. That's based off of just drawing a tape line across the fender to see how high it is. May need to trim the inner bracing of the hood, but that's not too big of a deal either. Putting it up high will give some more space for the intermediate hot pipe to be able to come up to the turbo and also clear the charge pipe. It was getting really tight in there with the charge pipe, this pipe, down pipe, wastegate pipes. We got pipes all over this place. But I'm happy with this. Zach's happy with it. So we're going to continue on this plan of getting the turbo mounted up into this spot here.